Hello and welcome to Ops Up Inside Your Head, the conversation for ops leaders who want to focus on their habits to make their organizations amazing. We meet amazing guests from the world of operations who've been there and built the habits. Today, we're with the brilliant Ryan McNamara of Rise at 7. He's had 18 years in agency work and he has 4 years in ops. Hello, Ryan. Welcome to the conversation.
Hey, Michael. Thank you for having me.
Cool. It's really nice to meet you. Let's kick the show off. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and how you ended up doing what you're doing?
Of course. Ryan, originally from down in Luton. I now live up in Yorkshire. It's out in the countryside, which is lovely. As you mentioned, been in the agency world for 18 years. I set up straight out of university. I ran an agency with my very good friend Pete for 10 years. We graduated as that 2008 financial crash hit, and there was nothing happening in the world.
You're down. Sorry.
Yeah, and he was just finishing off his PhD in web effectiveness, and he was like, "Right, I've got a couple of small websites. Do you fancy learning how to dev whilst you're looking for a job?" And I was like, "Yeah, cool. I'll give that a go." And we ran that for 10 years. I sold up to him, I think 6 years ago, something like that, 7 years ago. Moved up to Yorkshire with my wife, and over the past 4 years, moved into an ops role at a healthcare software agency, and then over at Rise for the last 10 months, doing my thing.
You think nice, okay? And I always love the squiggly path to ops. And like you say, you were. What was the university degree in?
Okay, so I went to Loughborough. I went to Loughborough specifically to do sport, but I wanted to do graphic design at Loughborough, but I wasn't allowed because it was a 9-to-5 course, and I had athletics to concentrate on as well. At the time, I was a junior international athlete, so being there for athletics was a huge part of the experience of Loughborough. Unfortunately, injuries and whatnot took its toll. So I ended up taking a course called ergonomics, which is effectively user systems, which has come in really handy, actually. Understanding how users interact with various things, especially in the website of my role previously. But then when we set up my first business, 5 or 6, I was an engineer, I was the designer, I was the creative director there. We had it was 10 of us in the end, but a small agency like that, you have to do lots of different things. So design, web design, graphic design, brand, strategy pieces, the dev, the biz dev as well, all of that. When I moved up north, I took on a head of design role, and then progressed into new business director, and then after that, operations director. So I guess because I'd gone around the houses doing lots of things from production to delivery to sales, and all those bits in between, that it sort of fit quite nicely with ops.
Oh, that's fascinating. That really is. I've not. You're the first guest on here that's come through sort of technical background. Lots of people tend to go through the sales, customer service, but you're like, and I think, how do you think that's affected your view of the world, the ops world, having that technical grounding, or has it at all?
I think a lot, in all honesty. I think sometimes operators get a bit tarred with the brush that they're the fun police sometimes, when in reality, I want, especially at Rise now, I want us to be creative. We win when we're more creative. We try new things. That's the important part of what we do. The business doesn't survive without us being those bits. But also on the other side, the business doesn't survive unless we ran in the correct way. We prioritize certain things. So it's having the appreciation for the craft, whilst also knowing how that craft can influence the business as a whole.
I love that. That's a really I like that pragmatism of you need to know how it works, but also the effect it will have, because quite a people understand the effect but don't know how something works in the business, so they can't make that informed choice.
Yeah, like they both, there's friction that happens between those two because they both are must have, but sometimes people view it as that's when business starts sort of losing their mojo a bit because they prioritize one over the other. When in reality, they're both must haves. You just have to work out how you can do it both at the same time.
I love it. Cool. And so, what does that mean for you in the big picture when you're looking at problems and challenges in the business? What does that bring for you?
It's a good question. Like, I haven't thought about it that way before. For me, I think I think it's different for every business that you're in. So, and at different stages, if I'm thinking about it, there's right now for Rise, we know that we're on a growth trajectory. We've had a great year, but we know that creativity can't be lost. We see that as like what our one of our founding pillars. But we also need to grow up in lots of ways as a business. So we need to view everything we're doing through that creative lens. Like this is the output we need. This is the outcome we need to deliver for the client. Okay, so how do we work everything else around to make that as easy as possible for us to deliver, and also ensure that we make money, make a profit, we can keep everyone in their jobs and we can continue to build. So I think it's like what's the outcome that we need, especially from the creative side. Now can we build the process and the systems and the internal sort of building blocks to ensure that we keep that going.
Nice. Okay, cool. And that can take a lot of thinking and energy. When we think about you, and when you think about you, how do you approach a day to make sure that you come in fresh, you come in the right mode, you're ready to work? What is your routine?
Get out, walk the dog. That is the first thing. It depends as well because we're usually in the office twice a week, so Tuesday, Thursday, I'm usually in the Sheffield office. I was down in London yesterday, so the day was a bit different. But it will always be get up first thing, walk the dog, see how far he wants to go. He can be a bit fickle sometimes. And get out. Then at that point, I'll listen to an audio book or something whilst we're wandering around and just try and sort of ease myself into the day. At that point, once I've had breakfast and whatnot, head into the office or upstairs into where I am now. It's make sure I've got everything ready for the meetings that I've got coming up. See what Google tasks I've got in. I usually Google tasks as like my sort of note taking. These are the things I know I have to do at some point, and then I'll transition that into a Trello board of like the larger tasks and what things sort of impact those larger tasks. And then various things throughout the week I've got to do for so like we had the board meeting this week, so I know I had to prepare a lot of the content for that over the last week or so. We've got our monthly SMT meeting next week, so I've got to prepare all the documentation and whatnot for that, and get the agenda up to speed. So the main points, the main things that I'm working through, I'll make sure I've got all those in check first. But again, because I'm in operations, things happen, and days get kiboshed quite quickly, quite often. So it's just making sure that I can sort of disperse various tasks and various things and keep people going at the same time.
Yeah, because there is that fine balance of the on it and in it, isn't there? So the on it is those board meetings, getting that big picture work done, and then the in it is that can sometimes be granular, can't it? And the volume can go up.
Be overwhelming.
Without even realizing. You turn around and come back and they're like, where did that come from?
Yeah. Like I'm fully prepared for we'll finish this and I'll come out to 25 messages and another 50 emails, that sort of thing. Of which thing, and then that's a notification for you, isn't it? For me, it's like, well, this is too much. So what is important, what's not important? I use my inbox a lot as like a priority list too. So I tag it up quite well. I get the various filters set up so that it pushes the emails into certain places and certain pots, so I know which things I need to focus on first, like contracts and team elements and new business stuff and various things like that, I can quite easily find and move that in quite quickly. And then there's other bits and pieces that I can sort of push to the back burner because that's what my filter tells me to.
Yeah. So is sort of G Suite then your go-to productivity app? Because you said about tasks, you said about emails. Is that where you really keep that structure of your day, and then that important stuff gets lifted up into Trello? Is that how you're
effectively? This is exactly how it works. So on a meeting, I'll get all my tasks that out of that into the Google task list, review those and start pinning those against various larger priorities that I've got. So there's various things I'm focusing on at the moment, and the tasks to get pulled out of it, I think they're going to help me achieve though, and that's more important for the business and other things. I'll prioritize in that way.
Nice, interesting, cool. And you mentioned earlier that business is growing, and that changes where you have to focus and work. So what is the habit you're currently thinking about creating to deal with the growth of the business?
Back to prioritization again. At the moment, we've got 6 people joining this month, 4 of which are next week. So it's going to be a hectic week. It's a months of holiday, and we've had illness and various other things that have happened. So it's been for a lot of people in the team, it's been quite an overwhelming month, without it intentionally being, if you know what I mean. It's just one of those where lots of things happen that are out of everyone's control. And so sort of getting back to, bringing a lot of removing a lot of the noise so I can just see a bit clearer again. But I guess that's what happens in operations all the time. You've got a junior or an operations and events exec within the team, and that's the message to her a lot. It's we build things, it breaks again, and we come back and we build it again. It's just the way it works because businesses shift. Team members leave and join, various other things happen. Different departments get spun up, so process and systems and ideals change, and we come into we're there as early warning systems to figure out where that is happening, and then we try and rebuild and restructure again to help give some sort of clarity to the noise.
Nice. And is that sense of flux in the business something that you encourage people to embrace as it's going to happen, so let's go with it and not try and protect what we've built?
Yeah, I mean, I think with any business that's growing and growing quickly, that's exactly what happens. You've got to be aware of it. You've got to embrace it. Like, things happen and change. It's like you can go away for a week and you come back and you feel like everything's different. You've got to be okay with that.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah,
nice. Okay. So if that's what you're building, is there a habit you're trying to retire right now? What is the thing that actually you could stop doing?
Worrying about stuff that hasn't happened. I think that's the main one. Like ops, you get I'm not necessarily a risk averse person, but we're trying to mitigate risk all the time, and so you can plan and plan and plan, and you can set things in place and things in motion, and it be completely different to what you expect. So I think that worrying about stuff that hasn't happened is the main one for me right now.
Okay, cool. And what are you doing what is are you actually doing anything? Do you have any steps to do that at the moment, or is that something that actually you want to work on?
For me, it's always a self-talk thing. I'll always I think with being dyslexic and things like that, everything is very visual in my mind. So I'll talk myself through various things whilst I'm doing anything, and that's the way I get through most stuff. It's bring my rational brain in at some point whilst I'm again walking the dog or doing the dishes or cooking food. That's how I generally get through things.
Nice. Yeah, and I'm a dyslexic as well, so I have this challenge of the things in my head, trying to distill them onto a piece of paper or a screen. Actually, it's sometimes really challenging, isn't it? Like you know
I find
what's there.
ChatGPT the best for that. I found it so good for me just to, because I think you can get overwhelmed with tasks. You like don't know where to start, and a couple of prompts into it of just right, this is what I want to do, achieve, and it can quickly spin out and give structure to some thoughts that you're not, you're toying with. I found that has helped me a lot, even just talking into the app, because it can now do voice recognition and just jot it all down for you. I found that really, really useful.
Yeah, it's definitely changed my, like, being able to like voice note things and then drop it into something else. It's opened up so many things, but also made me more productive because it's allowing me to keep up with my head. Because sometimes the challenge is my head goes quicker than I can get it out. Whereas now I can speak it, I can put it into something, can save it, and then compile it. So it's an exciting time. I think it's an exciting time for ethics because there's so much technology out there. It's finding the thing that works for us to get.
Exactly.
Get it
I'm exactly the same when it comes to reading something. I read slowly because, like you say, your mind goes quicker than what you can actually get out on the page. And it's the same with when I'm writing stuff down, that I'll miss words because I've thought I put the word in there. I haven't. I've thought about it. I've just missed it when I've written it down. And like ChatGPT and things like that at least give some structure.
I know that for sure because I miss the word "not" out quite a lot, which is a challenge when you're writing instructions. Do this, not do not.
You know, that's really interesting because I'll read through something I might have written and I will instead of don't, I'll put do and things like that. So which obviously completely changes the sentence. And that's what I do from being dyslexic,
Yeah, cool. Yeah. We're in that boat. So you spoke about yourself, and you've alluded a little bit about the stuff you do with the team. So what are you looking for when you're thinking about your business, about the habits of the teams you're building? What are those habits that you want to see in those teams?
So self-starters, like people who are willing to just try, especially at Rise, it's important, but also a thing that I value. I think you can go a long way with just trying something, even if it's not quite right. At least know and learn from it. And I think there's also an idea that at some point in your life you realize that even though you've tried that, it hasn't quite worked out, doesn't mean it was wrong. No, it just might not have been right for that situation. So that's a big one for me. Asking questions, turning up and taking accountability and responsibility for actions is huge, because not just palming off it to that'll get sorted, or oh no, that's someone else's responsibility. I think there's a lot to be said for people who are willing to stand up and say that no, this is mine, I'll go and do this.
Nice. And is that when you're looking to shape teams and bring, because as you grow you need those people leaders to take over from yourself, don't you? Because you can't run 8 people and an ops and all the other bits. So what are you looking for in those people that you have in your business to step into those leadership roles?
I think those bits are good. I think there's also empathy and understanding that various people learn in different ways, and that I think some people do it people lead in various different ways as well. I'm more of I'll be in with the team, in with understanding what's happening, trying to figure out it with them and help, and then try and give some wider context. So I know that I'm not the person to tell the PR team how to run a campaign, but I can give them some, especially the leadership team, some guardrails as to, well, that's great, but it has to fit within this, this time frame, it has to fit within this budget. So you have to figure out, the ways to get, ways we can do that. So people who can problem solve quite quickly within boundaries are quite useful as well. Those who can articulate the idea and are willing to listen, I think are very, very useful in leadership roles. Those who just talk and talk and talk and don't necessarily absorb from the team, are generally quite bad leaders, but can get promoted quite quickly because they do talk. Distilling a complex idea down quite well is quite a useful trait, I think, for a leader.
Yeah, and it's an absolute fine line, isn't there? Because you're saying you want people to take risks and do things and fail and learn, but also they have to respect the guardrails, don't they? Is the here's the width of what you can do.
Yeah,
go do it, but don't go over the edges. How do you find the team to do that?
I think you've got to have broad shoulders in that you're making sure, knowing that you can test and try, but not necessarily getting down about it when it doesn't quite work. Dusting yourself off and just trying again. That is obviously always useful for anyone in any walk of life, because otherwise you'll put barriers up for yourself that you don't necessarily need to. That's what I think.
Interesting. And this is slightly autobiographical, but do you think that's coming from your dyslexia, that you're going to fail at things, you've got to learn from it, you've got to be better? Because that's what dyslexia makes you do, isn't it? You're going to write something, it's going to be wrong, and you've got to go on, haven't you? Again, you've got to move with it.
I 100% believe that's the case, in all honesty. I think there's the things that, like, I know I can't spell. And I've had to live with that for my whole life. And it's as a kid, you obviously I think dyslexia has come a long way in people's understanding, but as a kid, you were stupid if you couldn't spell, and we knew that wasn't the case. It was just I just couldn't do that particularly well. You say letters to me, and it takes me 3 times as long for me to process them as someone else, but I can, because of dyslexia, I've had to figure out other ways to solve problems. I've had to, connect the dots in various other ways. I can see, if that happens, then this is more than likely the cascading effect down the line as to what's going to go on. Or I'm quite a good listener because I have to, and so I'll know who to connect and how to connect people. But yeah, I would definitely say dyslexia has had that sort of quite an impact in that way.
Nice. Not nice. No.
I know exactly what you mean.
The context. And then if we think back into the team part of it, with the growth of your business, what do you think your teams need to start thinking about next?
It's the next couple of things that we're working on in the team is, as the business grows, there has to be clear lines of training and progression, specifically in certain teams. We have got it, but it's redefining it. It's allowing people to see how they can move through the business, and getting leadership and teams to think about that. So as a junior joins the team, can they see a clear path of progression in it, and is there a clear training path that mirrors that as well, so that they feel that they have a career at Rise if they want it. That's one thing we're working on, and bring in a lot of the information into a central location, so it's far easier for people to see and understand what is happening. And also I think communication, like as you grow, certain ways of communicating, you outgrow, and that's what we're trying to work out as well, especially within the sort of the board at the moment as well, because it's growing. We've got a couple of growing pains with which everyone's going to have. We just need to work out how to they're very good things, like good pains to have. Like we're well ahead of, like, we can see into the future in various ways, and with some metrics and forecasts we've got. So it's how do we communicate that between us and to the rest of the team as to where the focus is. So yeah, so like I said, training, bring in information to one central location and get us thinking about that, and also then comms to the team, the main things we're working on.
Yeah, I think, because that comms piece, sometimes people forget. They might do a training session, but then they don't continue the conversation about how you want people to use it or why it matters. And then it just disappears into the noise of things we have done. And
Yeah.
communication is, especially with the remote world, so because if you're not in the office, you're not all hearing it and talking about it. So what is the split of the office?
Yeah, exactly.
So what's the setup? Are you all remote, or you've got hardware?
We're hybrid.
You're hybrid.
Yeah, so we've got offices in Sheffield, Manchester, London, and New York. So we're in the office twice a week, usually Tuesdays and Thursdays. But because a lot of the stuff we do is still quite client facing, the teams will be, I said I was in London yesterday. There was a load of team people from the Manchester office in London yesterday. I didn't see them because they were with clients the whole day. But that's the interesting bit. Like with the 4 offices, it's each one has their own individual culture, each individual way of talking to each other. We're trying not to get rid of that at all. But we also have to make sure that everyone has the same ideals, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And that at that big business level, that's a real art, isn't it? Of retaining the authenticity of each office, but allow business to grow in a way that's complementary, so they all the silos don't start.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. And because we do big events together, that helps a lot. There's no it's very rare that it will just be a singular office working on a client. It's usually split between 2 or 3 offices. And that's super useful because it gets people talking. Yes, there might be like the Sheffield office is predominantly PRs and Manchester office is predominantly social and SEO. Those teams work together quite closely all the time, which is really useful, really helpful. And I think if it was just a singular PR project, which does happen, we still have people in various other offices that can come in and help, and it's usually quite useful to do as well.
Nice. And with decision making, because again, you dispersed offices, as you're growing, that board piece there'll be more decisions that go up there rather than people just making in the teams in the moment. What are you doing to ensure that your decisions are timely and sort of they are made by the right people?
Yeah, again, communication is key for that. You've got it's bringing in people that understand or have been through it in various ways as well. So you've got a bit of experience, and it's forecasting and reporting the information you've got across projects and across finance and resource and time, giving you a bit more breathing space to be able to make those sort of decisions. And it's also trust, like in the someone on the team, someone on the board might say, I think this is something we need to look into. It might not be, the information might not say that just now, but I think there's something here that we need to take a closer look at or explore or overinvest in, because I think this is an important thing for us to do. And it's also how that trust is sort of disseminated down to the teams and their KPIs, because people will, what people are measured on, that's what they'll focus on. So if you can give them the correct KPIs to be able to have that ability to make decisions that are going to only improve the business if possible, that's really useful.
Interesting. And what do those KPIs, so what are the things you put into the KPIs to like distill and champion trust? Is there anything you can share?
I think one of the things is that when it comes to KPIs, especially within senior management teams and department level teams, is that you have to engineer ways for people to talk to each other through them. And if they're not talking, they're not quite gonna hit their KPIs. So like utilization metrics across departments, because we have to make sure that people are doing work and doing billable work, otherwise we don't have a business. By putting those onto department level, it forces everyone to make sure that timesheets are ready and up to date and accurate. And also then you've got like a KPI for recovery. So it's the efficiency of the work that's being done. So even though the teams might be utilized, the efficiency of the actual work, or the amount that we can build from that, is super important. But also at the same time, they've got client level KPIs to hit, and they have to balance out the fact that you don't really, in an ideal world, you wouldn't overburn on a client. You'd deliver all the KPIs, so you'd make money, the client would be happy, but we all know that doesn't happen. So people have got to balance the idea that, and people have got to talk between teams, that if KPIs aren't being hit for the client, and we're spending too much money and time doing that work, what can we do to make sure that, because something else is going to suffer in the team, what can we do to make that work? So those KPIs are there so that people have to talk, and they have to prioritize together to make sure they can both mitigate their results if they're going the wrong way. Otherwise, if they're put on the same person, or they're not in place, no discussions happen, and you mess up on two fronts.
Yeah. And I'm guessing with everything it sounds like you got going on, you can quickly see that through the numbers that you'll be seeing, where those pain points are and where those misfires are happening.
Yeah, I mean, we're going through another phase of rebuilding that, because we do have it, but again, as you grow, various other things come in. But yeah, we can pair up client KPIs and internal operational KPIs.
Nice, I love it, and I like how they work in tandem.
Yeah, they have to.
Yeah. Because carry on. Sorry.
I say it's so important they do, and like, friction isn't always a bad thing. Like, if it forces teams to work out the best way of solving something, because the only way they can solve it is for them both to win, and that is for them both to deliver client KPIs effectively, and for the business to make money. So if they have to get into a room to have some heated discussions to talk about the best ways to approach it, fine. We trust them as adults to go and do that, and then present back what they're doing.
Nice, love it. Okay, cool. Right, we're almost there. We're almost through the conversation. I've got a couple of quick fire questions for you, if that's okay.
Okay.
And then we are done. And actually, the first quick fire question actually leads into this a bit. What you were just talking about is that when you're dealing with a difficult stakeholder, what's your go-to way to have that conversation?
All depends on them in reality, and how they react. Some people, well, how they're going to probably react. So always you have to hear out what their issues might be, or what if they're what they're having issues with. Ask them what they think is the problem. Ask them how they're sort of trying to solve it, and where you can support. It's not to point blame, but also it's where you can use various things to say, look, we know we're supposed to deliver this. Why hasn't this happened? This is down. This is not quite right. What is the issue here? And giving them at least a platform to talk through it and talk to you about it, and an opportunity to try and solve it. But usually, talking, listening, and trying to understand is my sort of first go-to.
Yeah, nice. I love that bit about understanding. When you're facing a tight deadline, how do you manage your time to make sure you get there and get it nailed?
I just have to make sure that everyone knows that the other things that they're expecting of me won't be delivered, so that their expectations are met as well. I think expectation setting is quite an important thing for a lot of people to do. And then it's just a case of prioritizing the right things that I think are going to allow me to achieve the thing that's the most important thing.
Cool. I love it. And you're the first person I've spoke to with this question that said, I'm going to tell other people.
Right. Okay.
Because quite often it's like, this is what I'm going to do, X, Y, Z. And you're the first person to go, I tell other people that I'm on a tight deadline, and actually they need to wait.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Otherwise I'll just get bothered. I don't want that.
But that's a conflict you don't need, right? If you're trying to get something done, actually you don't need that attention, and you don't want the other person feeling that you're doing them a wrong in whatever 100%. Reason, because that's not your intention, is it? Your intention is, this is the business priority, and I have to get this done. Exactly
that.
I love it. You and the team hit a major milestone. How do you celebrate?
Usually Rise is quite a shout out culture, so there's a lot of high fives and whatnot in the internal chats, but then there's also nights out, and different teams will do different things. The London team's quite they'll love to go for a prosecco and have a drink together. The Sheffield team is sometimes karaoke, which is not for everyone, but then like board game nights and various things like that. The Manchester team is far more alternative, so they'll do their own thing, and usually sort of good food, and so maybe a couple of drinks is their sort of go-to. And New York is still sort of finding its feet in its sort of definition, but they're getting together quite nicely. But as a team, it's big events that we do together, which is really nice.
Brilliant, I love it. Tangent question: what's your karaoke song?
I've been so far quite lucky to avoid this, but it would probably be something like Mustang Sally.
Nice. Oh, I love it. Yeah. Well, that's a nice one to spell out. What book should I be reading right now?
Books is operational. I really like the Phoenix Project. That's like a IT ops book. I found that I've read it like 4 or 5 times. Really, really useful. Then if I'm talking about sort of more of a business or self-help book, probably Obstacles Away by Ryan Holiday.
Oh, nice. I'm going to add those to my Christmas list. So when people say, Mike, what should I buy for Christmas? I'll go, here's my list of loads of books being recommended to take your pick. It's quite good because it takes the pressure off me having to pick.
Should publish this list.
Yeah, I will actually. I'll stick it out there. The day's coming to an end, and you either need to shut the laptop or get home on time. What is your go-to habit to make sure that you finish when you want to finish?
Again, tell people, like, let them set expectations that this is when I'm going, and this is what I'm going to do last. Because then at least they know that you're either not going to respond or they're not going to get an answer from you. Yeah, it's tell people this is my deadline. This is where I'm shutting down. That's always my first go-to.
Yeah, cool, brilliant. I love that. Before we go, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with the people listening about if they're an aspiring ops leader, what they should think about, what they should maybe start doing?
I think it's been great. There's podcasts like this are coming out, and there's lots more, especially within digital agency space for operators, which is great. Try and listen and learn and absorb as much as you possibly can. But I would also say that what's happened at Rise, or what we've done at Rise, probably won't work at your agency. The principles might, but the actual actions we've taken to get there probably won't. So don't sort of try to replicate the outcomes, but don't try and necessarily replicate the process, because your culture is completely different. The people you have in your team and the departments you have are different. So make it work for your business, not for what we've done.
Nice. I love that. Brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for telling us about your journey as well, and that dyslexic piece, because I know sometimes people don't know, and it's quite hard. It's quite hard to share. But thank you so much for bringing us in. I'm really intrigued, and we're going to keep following what you're up to, because it sounds like you're doing some great work. It sounds like you're building a brilliant culture. If people want to get in touch with you, where can they find you, and how should they say hello?
LinkedIn. I post a lot, get in the comments. That's really where I spend a lot of my sort of operating time, sort of learning, etc. Some great people out there now, which is really fun to see. So yeah, LinkedIn.
Nice. Great. Thank you very much. And thank you for watching or listening, wherever you are. If you want to find out more about what I do at Make Habits, I have a newsletter, I have a YouTube channel, and you can find me too on LinkedIn. Ryan, thank you very much. Thank you for the conversation.
See you later.